Hey guys, Andy here from Mediocre Hobbies coming at you with some Space Marine goodness. So, a couple of weeks ago, I went trekking all around the city trying to find issue 5 of the Combat Patrol magazine to get my hands on that rare new miniature that was released only with that magazine. It took hours, but I did manage to get my hands on a single copy of that. That's not the content of today's video, but it did get me thinking about all the other limited edition miniatures that I have collected over the years that I have not done anything with. And I'm sick and tired of having them pile up and just... there's too many of them. So I'm going to start going through them and just getting them painted for the fun of it. And that's what I'm going to do in today's video. So what I've done is I've gone all the way back to the first Partworks magazine that came out from Games Workshop. Issue 5 of that magazine had this incredible Ultramarines Champion. So I'm going to get that guy. I'm going to convert him a little bit. And I'm going to get him painted up in today's video. It's going to be a lot of fun. Looking forward to this one. Before I get into it though, as always, a huge thank you to everyone out there that supports the channel in the myriad of ways it is possible to support this channel. Whether it's by just simply watching, liking, commenting, and subscribing on the videos. That makes a huge difference. And for those guys who stretch and go the extra mile and either become a channel member or sign up to the Patreon, you guys literally keep the lights on, the cameras rolling. So thank you guys so much for your amazing support on the channel. If you want to check all those out, they are all linked down below. Okay, without further ado, let's dive in and get this champion painted. This is the awesome Ultramarines Champion that I mentioned. It's very clear to see which parts are the original model. Those are the bits in the blue plastic, which is what it came on in the magazine. The grey components come from the original upgrade sprue for the Ultramarines, which came with like a champion head and awesome shoulder pads and stuff like that. Unfortunately, this awesome plumed helmet is no longer in the new Ultramarines upgrade sprue, so I'm glad I had one of those sprues lying around to be able to make this conversion, because I absolutely adore, even before I put paint on him, I adore how he looks. I think he looks so awesome. There's something so menacing about a champion with a gladius. Like the concept of a champion who walks out in front of the enemy army and challenges enemy champions and leaders and warlords to single combat, and he draws just a gladius. No shield, no nothing, a short sword. Even if the enemy just drew a long sword, he's going to be at a distinct disadvantage in reach. But this champion does not shy away from such tests, and he will gladly cut down any foe with his glorious gladius. Obviously, I'm painting this guy up like I paint up all my Ultramarines, so it's just going to follow along exactly the same steps I've done a couple of times before. So if you are new here and you haven't seen this, then enjoy this process. If you're already seen a bunch of stuff, then just enjoy the video for other reasons. So I've used the Ultramarines blue contrast across all his armor panels, and then Black Templar contrast is used for all the soft seals and soft joints between all the different armor panels. When I got this miniature, like I remember the excitement of it when we first seen this miniature shown off. This is the miniature that's coming with issue 5 of the magazine, and that's the only place you'll ever be able to buy him. And everyone was like, it was feverish to get your hands on one. I did manage to get my hands on. I actually got 3 of them, I think. But a couple of my friends missed out on them, so I ended up giving the other 2 away. So I had no backup ones, which is, you know, unfortunate. In case I made a mess of this thing, which is probably one of the reasons why I ended up on the back burner. But like, I remember the excitement of getting my hands on him, of being in the shop and having that issue of the magazine and being like, yes, I have him, thank God. And that was years ago. And I'm only today starting to paint him up. Like, that just feels wrong. I really do want to just start painting miniatures. Just having collections of them. Like I said, this guy's an Ultramarine. I don't really have an Ultramarines army. I do have plans to have an Ultramarines army. I think in a 40k universe that Robute Guilliman is marching at the head of his armies to war, and me having a fully painted Robute Guilliman, it would be only nice if he had a little force to go alongside him. So I think I will at some stage start adding a couple of units to him. But I do enjoy the process that I have for painting up Ultramarines. And so far, all the characters I've done for the Ultramarines are pretty much like collector's pieces. So there's already a bunch of really nice figures which need squads to lead and, you know, forces to charge into battle alongside. Obviously, the champion gets his fair share of gold. Wildwood for all of the brown details, which is the sheath of his gladius. And then his belt pouches and pistol holster and stuff like that. Blood Angel's red contrast is to distinguish his plume. Now, I love the split red and white plumes that you get across some champions. When I looked up what champions' helmets are supposed to be, most of them are gold. I feel like veteran helmets for gold is a very Blood Angels-y thing, and I didn't want to do that. I much prefer the white helmet, gold trim, and then the red and white accented plume going down its helmet. I just think that is one of, if not the nicest looking helmets that you can do for a Space Marine. Even before I shade the miniature, the helmet already looks awesome. Makes them stand out in the bottom. Like if you see a sea of blue and gold across the tabletop, and then you just see that, just that one model which has that red and white plume, you know there's the champion. That's who you need to be careful of. That's who you need to worry about. If you see that moving to your general direction on a battlefield, it's time to rethink your options and make a run for it. So with all the details now and place all the base coats on, it's time to null and oil the entire miniature. This is going to shade it all down really nicely. Some people think it's a little bit too dark, but it's okay. I build up the blue with a nice coat of Caldor Sky, which is not a normal way of bringing up Ultramarines blue, but I really like the result. It's where I differ from traditional Ultramarine schemes. Whenever I've done a video on Ultramarines and I've talked a lot about my alternate scheme that I use for them, a lot of people seem to really like the color I go for, so hopefully you do too. For the base, I just put some texture paste Firelands from AK Interactive on. Obviously didn't go on like this. This has been drying for like 2 hours. I used some cork, obviously, to make the Space Marine taller. Every Space Marine needs a tactical rock. It's like a rule of law. And then some orange contrast was put over the rock and over that texture paste. And then when that's all fully dry, a little bit later in the video, we will do some dry brushing. And that's basically how I base coat all of my Space Marines. Normally I don't show it in a video, but I do get asked a whole lot. So this is the Caldor Sky section of painting my Space Marine. I've sped up the footage a little bit, because this is, of course, the most tedious stage of painting the Marine. Now, I say tedious and that sounds like it's a bad thing. I really enjoy layering up Space Marine armor. Maybe I'm a weirdo. I don't mean like if I had 10 Marines in front of me, I'd be really happy to layer them all up. I just mean when I get to like a nice character and something nice. I do like separating all the panels and getting all those neat lines and stuff. It's very therapeutic. And you can see here the Caldor Sky is very different to the kind of like sky blue Ultramarine look. But I don't think it doesn't look like an Ultramarine, if that makes sense. I still think when you look at it, you immediately think Ultramarine, but I like the tone better. I would love to know in the comments once again if you guys agree with it, or do you think it looks odd or out of place? Does it not scream Ultramarines to you? I love it. Celestra Grey was then brought in and I highlighted all of the white parts. I don't like going to pure white. Games Workshop doesn't really have a good white paint. And Celestra Grey does the job for me. It gives the impression of white without being really difficult to paint. And of course, this is going over the beautiful Champion's helmet. And then all of the Ultramarine U's that you see across the model. I think there's 3 of them. On his backpack, on his shoulder pad, and his shin pad, or knee pad, sorry, has the Ultramarine U symbol as well. So make sure you go in and give that a nice little highlight. Making sure you get that nice crisp line. I'm even holding my breath whilst recording the audio for that section, because you just got to be so careful with the blue being finished. You don't want to make a mess of it. The model's really starting to come together now. It's time to just highlight a few extra bits and pieces. We're going to start with the gold, with Liberator Gold. And we're going to spend a little bit of time just kind of scratchy edge highlighting all the gold parts across this miniature. Like I said, he is a champion. He does deserve his laurels and his accolades. So he's got quite a nice selection of gold trim across his armor, on his weapons and equipment, helmet, shoulder pads, all those things. So take your time, make sure you get a really nice layering job done on those. It will pop against that nice kind of royal blue color that we have on this miniature. Okay, time now to work up that base. So like I said, because people always ask me about my bases, you know what I've done. I put that texture paste on, orange contrast. Rise of Rust is now going to be dry brushed across the entire base. Very simple step. And then I'm not going to wash my brush. And then I'm going to jump over to Screaming Skull. And obviously as I kind of clean that out on the brush, it's going to tint it just a tiny bit. It's okay if you have a clean brush and you do this. It doesn't really make much of a difference. I just mean don't bother having to spend ages cleaning your brush. Just grab a nice kind of creamy color and do a very light dry brush across the base of the model as well. And this just does my kind of Martian style scheme that I do for all my Ultramarine, or all my Space Marine forces are done with this basing scheme, so that when I do play larger scale games in the future, I can add in all the armies together and it will look like one collective force. Obviously, I rimmed the base black as well. And then we're ready to move on to start layering some other bits. Evil Sun Scarlet for the plume. That's another thing. The alternate sections of the plume, those white sections, they were layered with the Celestra Grey as well. I just forgot to record it. So yeah, so the highlights on the plume, Celestra Grey, Evil Sun Scarlet, and just to make those details pop. While I had the red on my brush, I also painted in his eye lenses. And then I did jump up to the higher coat of red to highlight the inner parts of the eye lenses as well. Catachan flesh was then brought in to highlight pouches and pistol pouch and stuff like that. Sheath of his gladius. Once again, very quick highlight. You just don't want to leave it as a flat wildwood. You want to make it look like you put some effort in with those details. And with that done, this model is complete. He's not overly complicated. He is a really, really nicely well-balanced miniature when it comes to being awesomely posed, awesomely detailed, not overcomplicated, and just genuinely a very fun miniature to paint. Hopefully, I don't cause a lot of envy out there. A lot of people wanted to get their hands on this miniature and they have to go on eBay and spend a fortune. That's not what I'm trying to do with this series. So if you do happen to have this guy tucked in a drawer, maybe it's time to break him out and get him painted up before he gets forgotten once again. I'm thoroughly delighted that my one is now painted. I can now join the rest of my little Ultramarines force in a cabinet. A couple of still images to give you guys an idea of what he may look like on a tabletop. I think I'm gonna have to try and get an entire like Ultramarines command squad together just so I can deploy this guy correctly. I think that's the next step. I think that's gonna be really, really cool. Okay guys, and there we have it. My Ultramarines Champion is painted and ready for a tabletop. In my heart, I'm not collecting an Ultramarines army, but for some reason I have 5 or 6 awesome like Ultramarines characters painted up now. So maybe I need to move on and make a couple of squads just so I can get these guys on the table with a small force. I think that will be pretty cool. Combat patrol maybe, or boarding actions or something like that. That might be very cool. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please do let me know if there's any other rare Marines or rare models out there that you want me to do a video on. I promise I own 99% of them already. They're tucked away in boxes and stuff. So I challenge you to pick a rare old model that I don't have. And I promise you I'll get it and I'll do a video on it. So let's see what obscure ones you guys can come up with. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to give it a like. Make sure you're subscribed. And yeah, I appreciate you sticking around to the end. I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.